Hello, welcome to the Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. This is the Age of Sigmar Stat Center, where I look at all the event results from the weekend. I look at the lists, I talk about how they work, and I showcase the community. It's definitely also becoming a little bit of that, showcasing the community. We have an event this weekend from Canada, Philippines, and England. And while the lists and how they work is super important and something I'm always going to cover on the Stat Center show, and I'm backed up by the stats on the T-Sport Stat Center, which you can find on thehonestwargamer.com if you go and click the links, and also thanks to Rob and Ziggy for producing that. I love showcasing the communities, so if you are going to hold an event in the next few weeks or months, make sure you take loads of photos, either put them online or send them to us at The Honest Wargamer so we can check them out, because love to see, to get a picture of what those events are like, which would be great. Thanks for joining us. Let's go look at the lists. The first event that we're going to look at is the Wilhammer AOS GT, organised by Peter Holland, and it was held here at this gaming venue, I think behind the fence. So that's what it is. We had 36 players playing, and we only had one 5-0, and it was won by the lovely Mr. Christian Moore, and he was running Soulblight Gravelords, and he was running it in the sub-faction Legion of Blood. He had a Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, and if you listened to the show last week where we talked about Soulblight Gravelords a lot, it has a great melee profile and has got the ability to heal a lot thanks to its The Hunger ability on its War Scroll, up to 6 wounds each combat phase. That obviously doesn't include things like Heroic Recovery, so you can have a very survivable character. It has the artifact Cloak of Mists and Shadows, so it has a 3-up ethereal save, so you can't rend it, so it always has a 3-up save, but you also can't turn it into a 2-up save. And then it's got the spell Flaming Weapon, and it's got the command trait Doom Minions, which picks 3 non-hero or monster units on the battlefield, and then everyone in your army gets to hit it on 2s. Doesn't get +1 to hit, gets to hit it on 2s. So there we go. So it's just a really fighty character that's very survivable thanks to its 3-up ethereal, its 6-up ward save, and its ability to heal 6 every time. And then another Vampire Lord Zombie Dragon, this time comboed with Neferata. Neferata can cast a spell on that Vampire Lord Zombie Dragon, which makes it ethereal, but you do get to add +1 to its save, so it can be on a 2-up unrendable save. Again, it can heal thanks to the Hunger, and also has a ward save because it's a Soulblight Gravelords unit. Then finally, Neferata, as we just talked about, has got a spell which makes it so that you can ignore rend, and in addition, she also has Prisoner Grief, which means that you can't land with... Oh no, that's OBR. I'm not sure what Prisoner Grief is, and it doesn't really matter, but I'm sure it's important. 3 units of 10 Deathrock Skeletons. They're really good. Their recursion rate is massive. Deathrock Skeletons is something you should put on the board. They're super fun, especially for you using them. They effectively have a 4-up rally at the beginning of each combat phase that doesn't cost a CP. Yikes, but also yikes. And then 10 Blood Knights in the list as well. Now, this is another good unit. Because Blood Knights, not Black Knights. Yeah, they're vampires. They're really fighty. They're great on the charge. They've got a 3-up armor save, and if you cast Neferata spell on them, they can have a 3-up or 2-up with Mystic Shield, unrendable save on 30 wounds with also a ward save. Very, very, very good. Don't forget also the Vampire Lords, because they're in Legion Blood, get +1 to cast outside of range and +1 attack in range. The Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon can use a heroic action to ignore ward saves when it does charge in as well, so no ward saves for you, only for that unit, but that's pretty good as well. Still looking for an FAQ on Doom Minions. It'll be fun to see that happen. Shout out to Christian. I think this is one of his few 5-0s, but not his first 5-0. He's a really nice guy, and I'm super happy he got the 5-0, so congrats to him. And it's going to blow your mind. They're both playing Sylvanet, and then they're both playing Oakenbrow. So Oakenbrow Bros high-fiving, which is pretty cool. You'll love to see it. They didn't leaf any wins for anyone else. Owen Jackson was running Carriage Overlords, and then Baz Norman Jr. was running the Techless Sentinel Castle. So congratulations to all those guys. We'll look at the lists in detail a little bit. We'll talk about Owens just for a second before we move on, just because it's here. Oh, no, the Techless Castle is obviously Techless, a Cathalar in Helon, with 40 Sentinels and 10 Wardens, and a cheeky unit of Life Takers. There's the Spice, mixes it up. Congratulations to Baz, super proud of you. And then Owen's Iron Carriage Overlord. So he's running him with Barrack Baz, which means he gets to take an extra article That's your allegiance ability or sub-faction ability for Urbaz. And your allegiance ability is literally the articles. So you're taking a sub-faction to get more allegiance abilities. Kind of makes sense. And he's taken settle the grudges and honours everything, which means he gets +1 to wound against another target in the enemy army. His whole army does. And then you get rally on a 4+, which is still super good, obviously. Returning 5 Thunderers is great. He's got an Archanaut Admiral, a chemist, two chemists, a navigator, and a code write. Code write for generating all those extra CP. Voidstone Orb as an artifact for an auto unbind once per game. He's got a spell in a bottle on the other chemist, which we'll talk about in a minute. He's got the Admiral with the X Grundstrock ability. And what that does, that means that you can take Thunderers as battle line, and that means that his 2 units of 15 Thunderers can be reinforced from 5 up to 15, and he's got 2 units of 15. Also meaning he doesn't have to play any battle line tax, which is super smart and efficient in points building, and then a unit of 10 Archanaut Company. Then he's got an Ironclad, the second worst or second best boat out of all of the Kharadron Overlord's boats. Let's quickly talk about that. Gyrocopter, the Deliveroo scooter of the Kharadron Overlords, although not even in Kharadron Overlords. So in Kharadron Overlords, bottom tier, Gunstock, Gun Hauler. This is an electric like motorbike or something, probably powered by it's just not good. It's just not good. In B, you've got the Ironclad, which is like the family van of the Kharadron Overlords. It's big, it's bulky. I mean, it does its job and it's useful, but ultimately it's not as beautiful as the sleek and most powerful frigate. Just super cute. Super cute, super lovely. And the Gyro Bomber is not here. It's currently MIA. So the frigate, obviously the best looking one. Anyway, the important part is this is an army that bridges over, because the end of spell, the Soul Screen bridges in this list as well. Bridges over 15 Thunderers, moves 15 Thunderers over with the Ironclad, shoots everything and all the guns and murders as many people as possible. Absolutely legit. Super legit. So well done to Owen, go 4-1. And then we got two 4-1 Oakenbrow lists, and talk about them both. Oakenbrow means that the tree lords or any of the kind of big tree constructs in the Sylvaneth army are going to fight a top bracket unless they're down to their very last wound, which is very, very good. Makes them very effective. Tree Lord Ancient for putting out a forest, which means you can teleport somewhere on the board, which is really useful for them as an army. Drycher, making it into a lot of lists at the moment, very useful, especially for dishing out mortal wounds. Warsong Revenant in every list as a general with a Spell Singer, being able to cast through trees, which combos really nicely with the Tree Lord Ancient. And then it's got the aspect of the champion, fueled by Garish Rage, which means you can come back to life after you've been slain, or you stay alive after you've been slain. And actually, I think on the Warsong Revenant is amazing. Battle Mage from the Cities of Sigmar with Wild Form, which does mean that you get +2 to charge and move. Really interesting with Cities of Sigmar coming up in the summer. It's going to be a really rough time for Sylvaneth because they've been relying on that Battle Mage for a long time. And so that going away, most likely, in the new Cities of Sigmar book, is going to be pretty huge. Spirit of Durthu with a Greenwood Gladiator, so that adds D3 attacks to Spirit of Durthu's attacks, and because Durthu is in Oakenbrow, it means that you are it's going to be fighting at max damage for most of the game, which is very solid. And then there are 2 units of Tree Lords in here, their battle line in Oakenbrow, and a Dryad unit as well, and Spice Swarm Hive. So teleport, fight, shoot, fight, stomp, fight last, fight. It's all pretty good, and don't forget you get +1 rend. You get +1 rend from the spell that you can cast through the trees as well on all of those attacks. So you get some very fighty units, which are very difficult to kill with lots of healing, which I think is very good. And then finally, the other Sylvaneth list is similar: Durthu with the Gladius, Warsong Rev, Tree Lord Ancient, and the Battle Mage. But this has got 3 units of Tree Lords as battle line, doesn't have Drycher in the list, but does have Skaith's Wild Hunt. So you're going to be able to cast +1 to wound on the army as well. Chronomantic Cogs to reroll the casts instead. Kind of makes a lot of sense when some of those spells are very valuable, but losing Drycher. But both of them went 4-1. Congratulations to everyone at the event. Hope you had a lovely time. On to the next. Our next event is in Canada. at the CTC Age of Sigmar Championship. It had 22 players playing, and it was being organised by Joseph Maidema, and it was being held here at the Ridiculing Club, which looks good, in Ontario. Now, our winner at the event was using Fire Slayers for all the Fire Slayer fans out there, and it was Etienne Tremblay-Gouin, if I've got that correct. And he was running Fire Slayers in the Vorstrag, so that's +1 to hit, +1 to wound for Volkites that charge. 2 Flame Keepers, an Auric Runefather on Magmadroth, and then a Rune Sun, a Rune Master, and then 15 Hearthguard Berserkers. Galician Veterans, Warlord, Commander Entourage. Commander Entourage, so good in Fire Slayers, in my personal opinion. And then also Galician Veterans, useful as well for those. I mean, there's not much to say. Great board presence, moving to the bid board. Loads of really good units like the Battlesmith for the 4+ rally, and Fueled by Garish Rage so that it doesn't die. Supporting that front line of infantry that's very difficult to get rid of. If you do kill any of them, the Flame Keepers tick up because they've got the ability to get bonuses if your models die within range of them, and then they have a bunch of like fighting your opponent's hero phase, +1 damage, which is really good. So everything about them works in line and works well. Super good army and great, and well done to you for winning the event. In the 4-1 bracket, we've got Patrick East running Flesh Eater Courts, and that Flesh Eater Courts army contained 2 units of 9 Crypt Horrors. Obviously, the trick there is always pile as many attacks on as you can, run them up the board, and then pile in an attack twice, and then a Vampire Lord, Ghoul King on Terrorgeist as the backup. Jason Sparks and Guillaume Berger. Jason Sparks was running a Sons of Behemoth Breaker Tribe army with 2 Gatebreakers, 3 Man Crushers, and a Kronspine Incarnate of Gur. And then we had Guillaume was running the Skaven army with a Claw Lord, Greyseer, Thanquol in the boat, Warlock Engineer, Arch Warlock, Clan Rats, Doomwheel, Rattling Guns, and a Warp Fire Thrower. Skaven army doesn't really work other than the way it works, if that makes sense. There's no real need to explain how it works. You screen out with the Clan Rats, you do some shooting with the Doom Wheels, the Rattling Guns, you cast a bunch of spells, and then you try to charge with the Storm Vermin. On a double, they're in a real tough spot because they don't really have a unit that can hold the line, but they do have a lot of output when they get the chance to do a lot of output, which is super cool. Shout out to everyone in Canada. I hope you had a lovely time at the event. Our next event is really exciting because it's one of our smaller communities from our smaller communities around the world in the Philippines, from the Estancia Mall, or Estancia Mall, sorry, in Pasig City. We did, the organisers, so the Wartilio guys, organisers did send us a bunch of pictures, which is super lovely. If you're watching this back as a podcast, you can't see, but it's a small little community of people with one guy's wearing a mushroom hat, which is obviously the best as he's playing Gits. So we found our Nathan of the Philippines. They were playing it in the middle of a mall, which is also really cool as well. So if you imagine in the middle of a strip mall, so not in a shop, but in the middle, where obviously passers-by were going past, which I think is actually very, very fun and very cool. And actually might be a really clever place to try to hold smaller events, because a lot of malls and or shopping centres are dying at the moment. So they might have a bunch of space free to rent or very cheap to rent, which is fun. We've got a bunch of different pictures. There's our champ, and the champs did get a big belt as a trophy, which actually I think is a legit prize. So inspiring, in fact, that I might actually try and get them organised for my events here at the arena, which is pretty good. Here's our mushroom hat guy, which is super cute, and a bunch of pictures and videos, and you love to see it. So if you are, throw some love their way if you get the chance. But thank you very much for sending pictures. If you are running an event somewhere in the world and you want to send us some pictures of what that event is like, I would love that. Just stick them in a Google folder and send me the link. Super, super awesome to see. Like, I feel like really connected to the players now that I've got to see them. Like, I get to see the pictures of them all playing, which is just wonderful. So more of this. Massive fan. If we're talking about the actual lists, our first place player, Carlo Zamora, going 4-1, was running Disciples of the Ancient Guild of Summoners, which means it costs you 9 points to summon your first Lord of Change, 18 for your second, which is not too difficult to get a bunch of points summoning points to do that. You get summoning points by casting spells or your opponent casting spells. You've got Kairos Fateweaver, a Magister, and an Ogroid Thermitage in the list. The Magister is bonded to the Krunspine Incarnate, and using Destiny Dice, you can kill your own Magister so that the Krunspine Incarnate can then do two things. Can have run and charge, +1 to hit, but also can then eat your spells. So you can cast spells for your own Incarnate to eat, and then level up to level 3, making it basically unkillable. 2 units of 10 Pink Horrors of Tzeentch, and a unit of Carrick Acolytes. So really good on the primary, really powerful in that Krunspine Incarnate, and then you're just going to keep adding more and more and more Lords of Change into your army, and you've got a Battle Reg 1-drop, so you get the choice to go first. You love to see it. In second place is Soulblight Gravelords, Legion of Blood. Vampire Zombie Dragon with 2 minions, Click of Mist and Shadows. Neferata, a Vampire Necromancer, 10 Blood Knights, and some Death Rattle Skeletons in a 30, a 10, and then 10 Dire Wolves. So very much what we've seen previously. And I wouldn't normally do this, but I want to shout out Nico Cavada in 3rd place, Carlo Bagapora in 4th place, and I want to showcase that wicked picture of that belt that they could win. So shout out to everyone in the Philippines, and congratulations to all of you. I don't normally shout these out, but as you can see, I'm just going to talk about a team event that happened this weekend in Norway. Half of the Norwegian team split itself up and played at the 2D6 Alliance event, where they did have 14 teams of 4 battling it out, which is a pretty sizable event in Norway. Team events are really good. Obviously, we've got Age of Sigmar Worlds coming up. We don't normally talk about those because the way the pairings is done is it means that you can construct those games and those matches a little bit easier. So they skew win rates. So we don't include them in our stats or normally cover them. But it is nice to shout out some people that are playing some great Warhammer over the weekend. Team Odin, or Gears team, won the event. And then Trekant for Marston also went 5-0. Both those two teams are, by the way, the two halves of the Norwegian Worlds team, who we'll see at Worlds in a couple of weeks. And then, so congratulations to both of those. There are some pictures as well. Here you can see this is gear if you want to go and check out any Norwegian Warhammer. So there's a picture of the winning team having a great time and just being great people. Norway Warhammer is great Warhammer. Love to see it. So glad for them. There was also another team event, 12 teams of 5 players battling it out for 60 players playing in Spain at the Gran Torneo Wargamer GT de Murcio. And it was won by Petre AOS. They did drop around round 3, and DKHM Alpelito also dropped around round 3, but they got the bigger differential. So we're talking about this for a minute. Shout out to Axio of Sigmar and Huerta del Batalla as well. What do I mean by dropping around? So when you're playing a team event, team of 5, your score gets added onto the rest of the other team's score to make the total score. And if your score beats the opposing team, you win. However, importantly, if you get enough points in all of your other rounds, and including even the round that you lose, because those points still count towards your total at the end of the event, then you will indeed end up winning the event. So it's all about, even if you lose, losing well versus always just smashing it, which is important. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so not many events this weekend, which is fine, a little bit quiet. A lot of the players around the world will be organising themselves, or tournament people will be organising themselves for the AOS World Team Championships, which is in a couple of weeks, which you will be able to watch live on the T Sports Network. In fact, if you're watching the Honest Wargamer YouTube or listening to the podcast and haven't gone to the T Sports Network YouTube, we have a bunch of interviews that I conducted this weekend with loads of players and organisers, or coaches and organisers, and team captains, so you can listen to those, find out more about Worlds, and also don't forget we'll be doing live coverage of the event live from Amsterdam in a couple of weeks, which you can again check out on the T Sports Network YouTube, so do go check that out if you get the chance. I super appreciate you tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it today. Quite a weekend, which is okay. One of the big takeaways actually from all of my interviews with all of those captains was that all of their communities were, in their words, exploding. Germany said their scene was exploding. Spain, Norway, they're all like, our scenes are just exploding. We just had an event from the Philippines, which was awesome. Several of them jumped into the chat to say hello today, which I absolutely love. So if you are ever running an event somewhere in the world, please do take some photos and videos. Just load in the Google Drive and then like find either the T-Sports Stat Center or me on Twitter at 6DieSkills, and get in contact with us and share them with us when you are running an event or when you've run an event, because I'd love to communicate and connect with the community more. It's my favorite thing. That's why I do the Monday Stat Show. So send them pictures, send them videos, and just have a great time wargaming. Thanks to everyone on the Wargamer Patreon. Couldn't do this show without you, and thanks to the Twitch chat for being awesome.